Good evening, welcome to Cam's RedArmy. This smile I can get very used to. What a fantastic weekend to be a Boro fan. Obviously the league table's still not where we want it, but things are a lot better this week than they were last week. And a 4-0 result, which we're going to go dig deep in. Please get your questions in, please get your comments in about the game, about moving forward. But like I say, you know what I mean, there's going to be lots of reasons to talk about all the goals, all the incidents of the game. It was a very interesting and intriguing game. We're going to go through. Got a special guest this evening, Jack. Welcome, Jack. Welcome to the show.
Nice one. It's been a while since I've been on.
Looking forward to it, mate. But I think there's only one place to start. Saturday morning, Saturday lunchtime, the game, the local derby, Middlesbrough versus Sunderland. What was your expectations before the game started? Obviously, we know the outcome, which we're going to go dig deep in a little bit. What was your thoughts before it started?
Wasn't looking forward to it. I thought it was a game that could have gone either way, to be honest, before the match. They've obviously had much better form this season than we have.
Yeah.
So I was fully expecting a difficult match. And to be fair, the first half...
They gave us a difficult game, didn't they?
It was a very good game. It could have gone either way. I think it had 1-0 written all over it, but which way it could have gone, God knows. Yeah. I say 1-0. It could have been about 5-5 at half time.
And I think, to be fair, I think they caused us quite a lot of problems in the first half. You know what I mean? They had a couple of early chances which flashed over the crossbar, flashed wide. I thought the two wide plays for them were excellent in the first 20 minutes.
Roberts with that little run through the middle.
Oh, when he beat about 4 players, his shot was powered up, thankfully. And I thought Jack Clark did exactly the same as well. I thought they've got exciting players, but I thought we handled them well the longer the game went on. I 100%. Thought we didn't have... I don't think we handled them as well as we should have done at the beginning, but I think we rode our luck. Got through to the period that we needed to get through, probably the 20-30 minute mark, silenced their crowd a little bit. And then the turning point, obviously the red card. If that was on, she was on the other foot, Jack, thoughts? Would you be upset?
I'd have been livid, to be fair. You can look at the rules of the match, and like I said, they came out on Sky Sports and I think they were explaining that second half, why he got sent off and what he'd said. But if I was a Sunderland fan, I would not have been best pleased about that. I think I'd have been looking at it thinking, well, to be fair, up until the second half, I was looking going, what's he been sent off for? Yeah. Like I couldn't work out what he'd been sent off for. Yeah.
And let's be honest, I think for me, I think he was very lucky the way that the first yellow card came around, because it could have easily been a red.
It should have been a red, to be honest.
I think he's very lucky that he went through Josh's legs. His studs were showing. He went all the way through. He went through his legs instead of either side. If it was either side, I think we might be talking about a long-term injury for one of our players.
Well, I think that was the empathetic refereeing that the referee started the game with. I think he was trying to let a couple of fouls go, albeit I think he let a couple of rough tackles go that could have been fouls, and vice versa. I think there was a couple of soft sort of shoulder barges that he gave. Wasn't great all game, to be honest.
We've just spoke, haven't we? And my opinion, you know what I mean, everyone's got their own opinion. My opinion is I think the game was too big for the referee. I think he was very poor for both sides. I know we're talking about we've won the game 4-0. The opposition got a red card. I thought the incident before half time was quite premeditated, in my opinion. I think they set that up to try and get Josh sent off. Yeah. I think they were trying to even things up. I thought the referee may have done that. To be fair, I thought he was losing the plot. I think half time couldn't come quickly enough for him. But for me, sometimes when you've got a big game like that, you've got a local derby, you've got lots at stake. You've got a game where Middlesbrough are in good form, Sunderland are in excellent form before the game. I think that game was, for me, seemed a little bit too big for the referee. I think he made some very strange decisions, calls throughout the game, and thankfully we were on the good side of it. I think it could have easily gone the other way.
100%.
And those kind of moments define seasons, define results, can define managers' jobs as well, you know, because if that's Michael Carey getting on a 4-0 defeat,
totally agree.
The pressure is right on his shoulders again, you know, and I think Tony will be fine. I think Sunderland fans won't be happy, but listen, I think like I say, the smug grin on my face. I've got a lot of Sunderland fans, ex-players on my social media, and I'll probably sat here and apologise for everybody I sent messages to over the weekend who were Sunderland fans and players.
Don't be doing that.
Because I know I've had stick recently over the last few years, so you know what I mean. The only fair thing is to give it out when you get it. You know?
100%. But
no, the game. Talk us through the goals. Talk us through special moments in the game, which got you going, excited you.
Well, I think the first half, I'd say Dieng's save. Like a few people have mentioned, he must have the longest studs on the bottom of his boots. How he saved that. Like, I'm glad he went with his foot as well, because I'm watching it thinking if he goes down with his hand, I don't think he's getting down there quick enough. I think that's going in, but he went down with his foot. And that was, I think, the defining moment of the first half, because that could have been, if we go 1-0 down,
It's a different game, isn't it?
100%. It's a different game.
Before we go on to the more moments, what got you going in the game and excited you? How important has that signing been? Because, like, for me, I think there was a lot of pressure on his shoulders replacing Stefan. You know what I mean? We've notoriously had some really good goalkeepers in Middlesbrough Football Club. You know, some big names, some big characters, some big boots to fill.
Yeah.
And for me, he's filled them, even though he's had a really tough start in terms of results and goals against. I don't think he's been at fault for, if any, not many goals. But he's in big moments and big games, he's stood up to be counted.
Well,
on Saturday did that.
He's been put under a lot of pressure by Boro fans, I think.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, I just think
he's following different people, or he's.
I'm not quite sure what it is with Young. I think it's just. Like you say, he had big boots to fill, and I think at the start of the season, if he's not making saves, regardless of whether it's his fault, sometimes fans don't look at it and go, to be fair, there's nothing he could have done about that. It's the blame falls solely at the goalkeeper.
And I think I totally agree with that. I think a lot of people have looked and tried to throw the blame game at people, and he's the last line of defence. He's letting all the goals in. There's a fact. I don't think he was getting much support. You know, I mean, I think we were letting a lot of goals in around the fullback area, which we seem to have eradicated a little bit.
Don't get me wrong. I don't think he looked confident his first few games. To be honest, I think he looked a bit shaky at first. So I can understand the frustration of the Boro fans. Yeah. To be honest, I was one of them. I was looking, going like,
is that because?
Like, please, but
is that because obviously he's buying into a new philosophy. He's come from QPR, who are a very direct side. Probably didn't play out from the back. Probably played along from back to front. Yeah. And now he's being asked to receive the ball, play short, pick his passes, you know what I mean? Being able to be confident on the ball and to ask a goalkeeper who's probably not played that way for his career or many years, because he's been at QPR for quite a while, to follow someone as comfortable as Stefan N'Golo, who was just ridiculous on the ball and can pick a pass, short pass and long. Yeah. You know what I mean? Must be quite daunting for a player to do.
Oh, 100%. Like, I couldn't do it.
And I think it's important that I think
I'm also not the right shape to be able to do that. But
I think it's important that he's given time, and I think now he's showing how good he is as a goalkeeper. And I think we forget sometimes his job is to get the ball out of the net. His job is to save with his hands and his feet. You know what I mean? I know in 2023 we're asking goalkeepers to pull out with the feet and be the first line of passing through the lines.
We're asking them to do everything from selling bovrils at half time. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're asking them to literally do everything. Like, you want to be a goalkeeper, ball playing midfielder, like deep line centre. Everything, sweeper, keeper. It's ridiculous. Like, but at the same time, I think once you could see where he found his feet, no pun intended. Yeah. And he started to, you can see the confidence really growing in him now. Which I think, like I say, that save against Sunderland.
Yeah. It defines moments in games, doesn't it? And those moments are. They win your games, you know what I mean, or they can keep you clean sheets, get you a point. If someone, we spoke last week, you know what I mean, a point on Saturday would have been the best result.
Oh yeah,
ever, you know what I mean. But then you look at the outcome now is we're in dream world, and I don't think we've stopped smiling ever since. And it's
the only thing better than 4-0 is 5-0.
Well, exactly. Evening, Stuart. Evening, lads. What a Mackham beating that was. Absolutely fantastic. Matthew King. I still think we're the better side in the first half. We look very composed. I don't think we were the better side, in my opinion, Matthew. I think I agree with you. We did look very composed. I thought we received the ball. We were confident under the ball. I just think they caused us more problems than we needed to. I think we were a little bit naive in terms of wide areas, full-back areas, and they probably should have scored. In
terms of chances, they had the much better chances. They did, yeah. Like, and that's at the end of the day. Like, we can pass the ball around for 40 minutes out the back, but if we don't do anything with it up top, then obviously it's a danger for us, if you know what I mean.
Josh probably could have and should have scored. Yeah. But you know, I think the work that he does in between the box, and he seems to create a lot for other people, and I think people are going to ask questions about probably the amount of goals that he scores. He does a hell of a lot more for me than just score goals.
Oh, he does. If you watch his movement, he's constantly constantly going, like, looking around. He's checking over his shoulder. He's seeing where the space is.
Proper number 9 for me. He fights. He wins battles. He holds the ball up. He does all the things which then create space for other people. You know what I mean? For Izzy to get down the line, and for normally the Riley McGree's to bomb forward, and the Matt Crooks to get in the box for his goal. You know, and I think if his movement's not as good, those players don't get the rewards that they get. And I think sometimes look past data, look past stats, look past. It's more of a team. He's a team player. It seems to be.
He's doing the unselfish work.
Yeah, and I think that's why he's in the side.
Oh, 100%.
And I think sometimes when someone's not doing that unselfish stuff, the whole philosophy and way that he wants to play Michael doesn't work. And I think because we're getting the rewards now is because of unselfish people. You know what I mean? People doing that extra.
100%.
And maybe he's not looking as good individually, but listen, we're a team, we're a club, we're a group, we're a squad, and roll on more games if we can continue to do it like that, you know. So talk us through the goals. Obviously, the goals define games, and you know what I mean. I think we were in dreamland getting the first, but then obviously quite a few came very quickly.
So the first goal, I think everyone would agree. We're all looking at Dale Fry thinking, what the hell are you doing on the wing? Like I say, I saw a touch map of Dale Fry, and to be fair, he had a very good game defensively, don't get me wrong. But in terms of changing the game, that one touch he had in that corner, or the couple of touches he had in that corner,
define the moment, wasn't it? Because
what a ball he put in the box.
And to be fair, I always thought when he was doing it, and I thought he was going to come back, lay it back to Engel to whip it in left foot. But for him to take it on himself, couldn't have worked out any better. And the tidy finish from Sam Greenwood was superb, you know. And I think, you know what I mean. I've spoken to a lot of people. I spoke to a few Sunderland fans about the celebration or the lack of celebration, and you know what I mean, asking me. I think they're trying to cause a problem that's not there. You know what I mean. For me, you've got to put yourself in his shoes. You know what I mean. I call myself lucky or unlucky. I didn't get the opportunity to play against Middlesbrough as a footballer, as a player, leaving clubs and coming back. Would I have celebrated if I'd have scored at Riverside? I wouldn't have liked to. You know what I mean? Because I'd have hated to do it because. For me, that's my club and that's my family, and there's too big of a story there for me. And you know what I mean, the way that he celebrated in his own way, for me, I take that all day long. He's there to do a job. It's not about celebrations. It's about the work ethic he put in at the weekend, the quality he possesses, and he showed at the weekend. His attitude, which he showed in abundance at the weekend. Like for me, that's enough. Forget about goal celebrations. Forget about not celebrating. It's about all the other things he did. And for me, I'll take that all day long, and don't celebrate a goal again if you can do what you're doing.
I was gonna say, yeah. Like I said, to be honest, I've watched the highlights, God knows how many times this week. To be honest, love it. But every time I watch his goal, I just think like the speed that he reacted to the ball is immense. Yeah. Like I still can't work out how he's managed to get his foot and whip it round the ball to get that much power behind. Honestly, I couldn't work it out.
Yeah, it was a brilliant ball, and I think Matthew makes a good point here about I fancied their wide meant to get behind our slow fullbacks, but it was a high press that stopped that. Yeah, I think it was, and I think it's important that we try to attack them and keep them further back, because if we leave our defenders and our fullbacks especially isolated one-on-one, we got shown against Sheffield Wednesday that our fullbacks weren't good enough defensively. We've been shown in other areas, in other games, that our defenders, especially our fullbacks, get very isolated one-on-one defensively. But then look where our goals came from. We're talking about Dale Fry on the left. We've got Izzy for Matt Crooks's goal.
To be fair,
he took the fullback on, drove in the box. Exactly like the Sheffield Wednesday goal came against us.
He didn't even have to take on. It
was Jack Clark. Yeah. Well, I think he didn't even need to bring him down.
Oh, he did. He went to go bring him down, and Jones was just like
fell on his backside, showed himself up a little bit. But then
hopped.
I think that's one thing that I've been really critical of Isaiah in terms of his end product, in terms of his composure, and for him to take that extra touch, to drive in the box, to pick the pass, the right pass, and for a simple finish. I think he can do a little bit more of it, you know what I mean? In the last 2 weeks especially, he's got himself at the back stick to score the winning goal.
Yep.
Midweek. And then he goes and gets an assist on a weekend. And I think if he can bring that kind of stats and those kind of data and improve his own personal performance levels, then we've got a right player in our hands. Because I think he went a little bit wayward last year in terms of performance level.
Well, I was just about to say, obviously, we know, obviously, there's a lot of like mental health issues that he was going through last season. And when he was playing, we didn't see enough of that attacking game that he brought to the club. Why
was that then? Because obviously I personally think he was playing a lot deeper last year. I think he was playing a lot higher.
I think it was that. I think a lot of it was to do with confidence. Like, obviously you'll know a lot better than me, but I can imagine when your confidence isn't there, you're not, like, if you're not there mentally in the right headspace, you're not taking those players on. You're just looking for the simple pass, I can imagine.
Yeah, totally. And I think people don't understand and sometimes underestimate the powers of your own mental health and state of mind. You know what I mean? Especially as a footballer, you've got 30, 40,000 people, you know what I mean? Sometimes on your case, sometimes, you know what I mean, want you to do well, but it just doesn't work out sometimes. And you can hear those comments, those moans and groans, and it's, you know what I mean? It's not nice as a player. And if you know what I mean? Everyone's got you know what I mean, they don't mean to get on players' backs, but you know what I mean, you're then scared to do the next pass, the next shot, the next cross, and I think sometimes you do the easy option. The easy option is the worst pass, and you give that one away, and then all of a sudden you're really under pressure again to start performing, and you know what I mean, you're letting your players down, you're letting yourself down more importantly. And, and I think he's at the minute he doesn't want this international break. He wants to keep going through games. He's now playing the best he's played for a very long time, and hopefully he can continue those traits. He can continue improving his fitness levels.
I can see him going back to not last season. I think any supporter of Isaiah Jones will rule off last season and just say it was a torrid time for him. Yeah. But the season before that, I think we're starting to see flashes of that. Well, I say flashes of it. He's been immense the last few games. He's come in.
I think he looks, and I'll say there's a couple of players. So if this is a trait going on in the club, I think a lot of them look a lot more physically strong. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're bumped up a little bit, and if that's taken a couple of years for him to get out of,
it's weird. Then that's brilliant. Watching Jones, I didn't realise how tall he was. I didn't realise how tall he was until this season. Now I know that sounds like a stupid comment to make, but he sort of seemed very he seemed small. He seemed very sort of like timid.
Yeah.
Where
I think
this
he was
season
scared to get into stuff, and it was like the assist for Matt's goal that if Jack Clark fell or he used his strength to push him over, you know what I mean, that's by the by, because you know what I mean, you go shoulder barge to shoulder barge with somebody, you've got to use your own physicality and your own physical
we've
strength.
seen in the last couple of weeks where players have tried to bring him down and he's shrugged it off, or he sort of managed to ride the challenge and then carry on and get back to his feet and carry on going with the ball. And I think that's what we've been missing from a lot of Boro wingers for the last couple of seasons, obviously including Jones, where he wasn't quite at that level. Yeah.
We've been very lucky with having wingers. I know we've talked about in the past, you know what I mean, and go back to Ayson Park era, you know what I mean, to the Riverside. You know what I mean, we've been so lucky with proper wingers, and he's in that bracket, you know what I mean, and he can make that name for himself, you know what I mean. When I started watching the Boro and seeing Stuart Ripley, and Rippers was an absolute hero, man, you know. So if you're now talking about Isaiah in the same breath, you know what I mean, and inspiring young footballers to go and do it, you know what I mean, like long may it continue, because he could be the catalyst now, you know what I mean, to go and kick 100%. Us onto that level, because if we are going to keep scoring the amount of goals that we're scoring recently, and we can keep the clean sheets to go up to boot as well, we've got a real chance to fly up this league, you know what I mean. We're not sitting here and going to get excited, because I think the start we've had, we've got to be realistic. But we were talking last week, 5 points behind the playoffs. And now this week, it's dreamland, you know what I mean.
Potentially, like I said, obviously, I don't want to get too excited. Yeah. Like, it's not my first season being a Boro fan.
Yeah. We're always there to be disappointed. We're always there to be shot down, and I think it's so important that we enjoy these moments, because there's few and far between. You know what I mean? To go down to Sunderland and go and beat them 4-0 is what we all hope for, but in reality,
we'll do it at the Riverside next year.
It won't happen, but getting the double.
We play Sunderland on my birthday next year at home, so
that would have been nice. It would have been a nice birthday present.
I was going to say, so hopefully 4-0 again.
Hopefully have a good birthday. Hopefully good birthday. One thing I did like, and yeah, I mean, I'm stats driven, especially doing these kind of shows. That, you know what I mean, I'm quite obsessed with the way that Michael likes his possession-based football, and you know, I mean, the possession was 50-50 more or less. We did edge it by 52-48. And I was quite surprised at that, because I thought they had a lot of the ball. You know what I mean? I know second half we had a lot more of the ball and we kept the ball, but you know what I mean? For us to dominate possession away from home in a hostile atmosphere means that you've got a better chance to win a football match if you can keep the ball.
Yeah.
If you're not seeing the ball, you're going to give more shots away. The shots that we had miles more shots than them. They did. You know, if they scored all their shots on target, they still lose the game.
Yeah.
4-3. You know what I mean? So for me, it's how exciting and the potential that we've got. You know, I mean, Michael's never been flustered. He's never panicked. He's always been quite calm and collective. You know what I mean? So to pull a performance out like that, and he was still calm and composed. You know what I mean? I just think the future's very bright. And I'm just so disappointed that we haven't got a game this weekend for a continuation. And we're going to have to talk about international games, because now they're, you know what I mean? We need this continuation, because we've been brilliant for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
100%. Like I say, all I'm hoping with, I know obviously we're going to go on to players on the international break shortly. Yeah. But I'm looking at what Carrick's going to do in training from now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at what more he can bring, whether he's going to keep drilling it in, because, like I say, I think how many players have we got away on the international break now? Is it 7 or 8?
I think we've got a couple of missing. We'll go through it. Yeah, I think we've got six going and a couple missing. Yeah.
So like I say, so the bulk of the team is still here. Obviously, I know they'll have time away and they'll have time to go see the families and whatnot. But I'm just looking forward to seeing what Carrick does on the training ground, because the last international break, that's what turned it round for us.
Totally.
I think that's where it started to really click.
We talk about good timing and bad timing of international break.
Yeah.
Last time was perfect timing. This time isn't abysmal timing.
Couldn't have been any worse.
So I'm hoping that it doesn't come to bite us in the backside. I hope it's a good stopgap for players to have a rest, recoup, and go again strong. Please keep getting your questions and your comments in. Ian, watching us, brilliant, great to have you on the show. Matthew King again. The link up between Crooks and Jones is massive for us again. I think Crooks is playing a huge role for me in terms of, it's surprising me. You know what I mean? Obviously, Riley, picking an injury up meant that you've got to go down a different way of playing. You know what I mean? He's not probably as technically good as Riley, but he gives us a different dimension. He gives us that different dimension in defence because he's good in the air, in set pieces. He gives us that option going forward as well, because he always seems to pop up at the right place at the right time and bags a goal. And I think he's more surprising than anything. I know you can't miss him because he's that tall and he's big in stature, but he does seem to just creep into places where he probably shouldn't.
Yeah, all I can say is I'm glad I've not been on for the last 3 or 4 weeks, because before to be honest, the last 3 or 4 games, I was slating him. The choice of putting him there, the fact he was in the team every week in, week out.
I don't think he was the only one.
He slowed the game down.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree.
He looked completely he just looked lost.
He looked lost, yeah.
And like I say, honestly, I'd be watching the matches, I'd be shouting at the TV, I'd be, honestly, anything I could shout, I would.
Yeah. But then we're going back to confidence then, you know what I mean? Because he's obviously knows the way that Michael wants to play. He's obviously, you know what I mean, he's stalwart in terms of the way that Michael wants him to play in that midfield area. But to play as well as he did at the weekend and win the battles and get the goal and defend from the middle, and defend from the front.
I think they've changed his role slightly. I think the first few games this season when he came in, it's as if we were almost trying to replace Akpom with Crooks.
Yeah.
Now we can't do that. You've got 2 totally different players, 2 different physiques, 2 different styles of football. And I think what I've noticed is Crooks is he's dropping a bit deeper now, but he's picking the ball up, and instead of making those runs in the box, so what was happening before was we were seeing Elath, for example, who would drop back and then Crooks would make the overlap. Yeah. Didn't work. Yeah.
He's not that kind of player, is he? I don't think he's got the legs to do that. I think you're asking someone to do a role that it's unachievable.
Yeah. So you're trying to overtake Max Verstappen in HGV, you know what I mean? It's not happening.
And we spoke about you're putting round pegs and square holes, and you know what I mean, for me it didn't work, and it was so obvious it didn't work. And then you're asking now, you're now putting the right people in the right areas.
Well, what we're seeing more of Crooks now is what we saw of him under Wilder, where a lot of it sort of drop a bit deeper, pick the ball up, that nice little link-up play on the right-hand side with Jones. We're seeing a bit more of what he's good at. Yeah. And also, but the fact that now we've brought into the game, get in the box as well, and take your chances.
All we want players to play at their strengths. You know what I mean? And when they're like a fish out of water and they're not able to do what the manager asks, I think it looks really evident, and it's poor, isn't it? You know what I mean? In terms of you want lads to look comfortable and feel comfortable.
100%.
And I think at the minute, the job he did at the weekend, that's his role. His role is to do what he did at the weekend, and I think hopefully Michael will have noticed and seen it in abundance that needs to continue.
100%.
Good evening, Tracy. Joe's watching. Great to have you on the show. Stuart, the only stat I like, Andy, is 4-0. It's a decent stat though. It falls my unlucky number this week. Not for every Sunderland fan, but look at the league table though. You know what I mean? Look at the league table 5 games ago. We were behind Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
The game against Sheffield Wednesday, the first half especially, was the worst I've ever seen Middlesbrough play.
Do we need to talk about that part?
No, but now look at the league table. You know what I mean? They're in 16th position, 4 wins out of 4 in the league. You know that you're 4 points behind the playoffs. Your next game's Birmingham City. I know we'll talk about that obviously next week's show, because obviously with the weekend break coming up, but they've just got a new manager. You know what I mean? There's obviously a lot of teams between the gap, but. And for me, this is a lot healthier. It's a lot more respectable.
This early on in the season, like you say, there's 4 points. Yeah. Is it 4 points, 5 points?
4 points out.
4 points. So it's one of those things where you're looking, thinking it's feasible, it's doable.
It's a midweek game.
Don't get me wrong. I look at Leicester and Ipswich up at the top, and I think maybe a bit more unrealistic. Yeah. But the playoffs is it's what we go for every season. You know what I mean?
And to be fair, you know what I mean. I think when you're looking at the squad at the start of the season. You know what I mean? If we'd have kept the players, you're looking at, for me, a different, different
mid-table
objectives.
side.
Looking different objectives. With the team that we started the first game of the season off, you know what I mean? For me, it was mid-table team, mid-table squad, mid-table side, and even the players that they brought in, they were struggling to adapt, they were struggling to fit in the way that the manager wanted them to play. So then you're probably looking at mid-table to just a bit of consistency and try and get some positive results even there. But now when you've had the month that we've had, you know what I mean? Now you start to think a little bit differently, get a little bit more excited. But you've also got to remember the teams that we've played. We've hit teams at the right time. Yeah. Obviously, Sunderland was a really tough game. The next game will be a really tough game, and then you've got another batch of fixtures where you're playing some big sides,
100%.
Who are confident, who have got Premier League players in their squads, and I think it'll be a different month next month. And then Christmas is always a difficult month anyway, with the amount of games and with the weather changes and things and injuries which could potentially get picked up. But then you have a better idea where we need to be, where we would like to be. But it's all exciting moving forward. It's brilliant.
The only thing I'll say is I'm a bit devastated that after the run we've been on and beating Sunderland 4-0, when you look at the league table and we're still 16th, and it's like,
I think that's the disappointing part for me, that we've had such a good run and there's loads of positivity around the place. And then you look at the table and it does deflate you a little bit. You know what I mean? I look at Leicester and I think,
but it's better, better than 24.
Better than where we were. But like, I look at Leicester and I think, you know what I mean? They're flying away from the league. They've dropped 3 points all season, whatever they've dropped up. But you know what I mean?
They're where they should be.
I know.
Ipswich.
Yeah. When you've got Premier League centre forwards of national class, Nigeria, in Inacho, Jamie Vardy, you know what I mean? You've
I know he's 46, but
56, still scoring goals though. Tracy makes a good comment. We're going to go on to, obviously, speaking about the players on international duty. Do you think we can keep hold of Hayden Hackney? It's a real intriguing question, isn't it? Because I probably see it from Hayden's point of view. I see it from the club's point of view. Does Hayden want to play in the Premier League? Of course he does.
Oh, 100%.
100% he wants to and needs to play in the Premier League. For his ambitions, for his career, he needs to be a Premier League footballer in the next 2, 3, if not earlier. Yeah. Can he do it at Middlesbrough? Of course he can. He could have potentially been in the Premier League this year if we'd have had a better playoff game against Coventry City. He probably should be a Premier League player as we're talking now. Yeah. But when you get in the international recognition at under 21 level with some of the players that he's contesting with and playing alongside, for me he's in the best position, because if he goes to a Premier League side and doesn't play, he won't get the opportunity to play at the national level. So for me, he's getting all of this stick. He's getting all of these opportunities by playing week in, week out at a really good level in the Championship against really good sides. And he needs to continue his own personal development. And the way to do that is by playing games week in, week out and not being sat in an under 23 level or sat on the bench getting 5, 10, 15.
The issue is it's which team comes in for him. It's the price tag. Like, I think if a team comes in that have an eye for developing younger players, like, he's not going to say no to it. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a chance for him to go into the Premier League. Yeah. Now, those types of teams, I'm not quite sure which team you'd be looking at the minute.
You're looking at middle bracket, aren't you? Because the Sheffield Uniteds, the Burnleys, the Lutons, you know what I mean? They're going to come back down, and yes, they might go and give it a go to go back up, but as a player, your aspirations are not to just... I
think the likes of, like, if a team like Brentford came in for him, like, I think it'd be difficult for him to say no. Yeah. Obviously, if they're coming with a good enough price, it's difficult for the club to say no. And like I say, whether it's international, whether he gets playing like in the first team week in, week out, and gets to that international level that he wants to get to. Yeah. At the end of the day, like, it's there are so many factors that come into it. But
and then you flip it. You flip it. He's a local lad. In Middlesbrough.
Yeah, and so I think that's the main factor.
That factor is that you know what I mean, that keeps you here. Look at Dale. I still class Dale Fry as a young player, even though he's mid-20s, coming like 26, whatever he is. You know, so I think it's so important that we back these young players, because we don't want them to leave. You know what I mean? They're assets. We haven't had to buy them. We could sell them and make money if we need to. We need the money. I don't think we need the money in terms of selling these good young players. Yeah. But they become assets, and I'd like him to stay. I think the best place for him in his personal development, in my opinion, is to stay where he is and wear that red shirt. Yeah. While he's getting the recognition, especially.
Yeah, I'd be totally honest, and I think I can't, like, unless we get promoted in the next couple of seasons, I can see him moving on. I don't want him to move on, don't get me wrong. I think he's a quality player, he's a brilliant player. I think he's been a revelation since Leo brought him into the team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to get to a point where there'll be offers coming in for him that'll be too good to turn down.
No, totally. Thanks for all your comments. Keep going in. Tracy, I hope that answers your question. Ian, Cams, you could be a Darlington fan. I am a Darlington fan. Like all North East football. Obviously, good friends with Alan Armstrong. Obviously, Alan lost his job not recently, and hope he can get back into a job very soon and keep doing all the excellent work that he's done previously. Move on to obviously players who are on international duty. Obviously, there's a big, as a friendly, but it's still a big, massive game and a real good opportunity for the Australian players to test themselves against England. You know that obviously Riley will be really disappointed that he's had to withdraw from the squad, but Sammy Silvera should hopefully get an opportunity to play. Tom Glover get an opportunity to play in goal, which obviously he'll probably be busy in terms of, or should be busy with the attacking players that England have got at their
100%.
disposal. Obviously, Paddy's a stalwart in terms of going away for his country. Dieng's obviously going away, Marcus Fors, and obviously Hayden playing for the 21s. Vandenberg obviously had to withdraw as well through injury. So we've got a nice group away, and you spoke earlier on about the cause staying here, and I think that's for me is key.
Now,
I think it's nice for the players to go away, but the cause is the most important part.
I think when I look at the players going away, I think like the likes of Hackney, Force, McNair, Dieng. I look at that and I think like the extra game time will do them good. But I look at the likes of Silvera, and I think since he's joined the club, he's been an example of where our recruitment's been. I don't want to say poor, but I want to say below par in terms of the right here, right now. I think he's one that's potentially for the future, but obviously that's one that only time can tell.
Yeah.
But I think Silvera is one of those players that I'd love to see staying in and around the training ground, and Carrick really getting to
work with him.
So getting in the nitty gritty and sort of saying, I'm like, so do you want to give him a shake and going, do this?
Because I think that's important, isn't it? Because obviously he's going to go away. And he's going to go away for around 10 days to go away for now. You know what I mean? So it's a 10-day period that he's probably going to be away. There's a lot of travelling involved.
Yeah.
There's normally 2 games. So, you know what I mean? It's going to be quite intense. He's potentially going to come back tired, which is then going to impact on the next game that he probably won't start in terms of he hasn't had a chance to impress the manager. You've obviously got more chances to get injured in those games. Let's be honest, you know what I mean? England are playing Australia, that England should dominate the game with the ball and without the ball, you know. So they should be quite comfortable. That doesn't always happen in football. Of course, we know that, but chances to impress are probably slim to none. So I think it probably would be beneficial to stay, probably get a couple of games with younger players behind closed doors, things to impress the manager in order to kick on his Middlesbrough career. Because I think he's done okay when he's played, but then he's had more spells out before he's got bigger opportunities. And I think with Isaiah playing that well now, and Sam Greenwood scoring goal when he's come in, it now puts him down the pecking order quite a lot.
Listen, don't get me wrong. He's shown flashes of like taking players on. I think the first 3 games of the season he had a lot of clear-cut chances that you were going high and wide and all that sort of nonsense. But he's one of those players where I think if he can really get on board with what we're trying to do, and I'm not saying that's down to him and his effort levels, because his effort levels, like you say, he comes on and he'll run his little heart out, bless him. But it's one of these things where if he can just get right in the nitty gritty with it, and if he can really sort of push on, I think he'd be a good player for the future. But I think going away on international duties, it's one of these things. I'm just thinking like, it'd be nice for him to go like, oh, I feel a bit of a twinge here.
Yeah. It's also a big jump in levels, though, isn't it? You know, in terms of where he's from. You know what I mean? To play in the A League and then to jump to England's a big, massive jump. To jump to the Championship is a huge jump.
Well, even if you go from the A League to the National League, you know what I mean? That's still a jump in a sense.
But you're moving countries, you're moving across the other side of the world.
There's so
many. You know what I mean? There's climate difference. You know what I mean? There's obviously the weather, the standard of football, the players you're playing with, the players you're playing against. You know what I mean? Everything, the pace of the game.
Well, the expectation of the fans,
like the size of the club. You know what I mean? The pressure on yourself, mentally, physically.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you ride that wave a little bit when you move clubs and you enjoy it. It's when you get your feet under the table and you're a little bit comfortable, you think, and you start looking around, think, this is hard work. It's a bit of a slog, daily a slog, and And sometimes it's nice just to step out. Listen, I had the same thing. You sign for Cardiff and you sign for big money, and you ride that wave for so long, but then all of a sudden you just take a step back and you think, this is a bit of a...
Wow.
I'm a little bit like out of the depth for a week or two, and you just need to reset, regroup yourself and go again, because you're only human.
How do you, I know obviously we're going off topic here, but how do you regroup yourself?
You get good people around you. You probably drink too much than what you should do. No, you get good people around you. You probably relax and probably do the things that make you happy. If that's family, if that's friends, if that's socialising, whatever it may do, you need to go to a happy place for me. And as long as you're happy off the pitch, you'll go on the pitch and you'll do your own stuff. If you're a bag of nerves off the pitch, you know what I mean. You're going to go on the pitch bag of nerves. You know that nerves get there. Nerves are good. I found nerves were really good for me. Got me going. But if I was not happy off the pitch, I'm a nightmare on it, because it wasn't my happy place, the pitch, you know what I mean, in terms of that. I'd go on there and I'd switch off and I'd just focus on football.
Yeah,
it's a whole package, you know what I mean. You're only in that pitch for a short moment in your life, so for me it was I needed to be happy off it, and if I was happy off it, I'd go on it happy on it, and I'd still give my all, and it was a place I enjoyed being on, but I needed to have those moments at home quiet, you know what I mean, or sometimes not so quiet. But it's football's evolved, by the way, so it's like now you've got to live your life very differently, there's obviously not as big drinking culture as there was back when I played. It was you live your life very differently, in sports science, you know what I mean, the fitness levels, everything's so different now, and you know what I mean, you look at players now.
I've seen Dale Fry over in Barracuda before.
You look at players now that live a very healthy lifestyle, they look chiseled, they're fit, and it's nice to see, because and they get rewarded with it as well, which is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, we spoke about Sammy Silvera there. I want to touch on someone who's basically replaced him, especially at the weekend, who got open the scoring for us. Obviously, Sam Greenwood, and it was nice for him to perform the way he did. I liked his levels of performance. I liked his attitude. I liked his effort and desire.
Why you asked the question? Yes.
I like the story which came out that that we've got an option to buy him for 1.5 million, which I couldn't believe. I'll be honest, that I don't know who's going to be the daftest. A Leeds going to be the daftest to let him go for that kind of money, or a Middlesbrough going to be the daftest to not snap their hands off and pay that kind of money.
The thing,
The second one, if we don't spend that kind of money on a player who's got so much potential and has got already a reputation in football to be a very good young player, then we're stupid not to.
The thing is,
I know.
Yeah. The thing is, like, you look at his career, and obviously, if you look at it purely on stats, in terms of senior appearances that he's made, it's not a lot, to be honest. And like I say, when you're looking at players coming through at younger ages, and like by 21, you can have people sort of coming up to 100 games for some clubs.
Yeah.
But he's one of these players who, he came to the club with a bit of a reputation of this young, exciting talent. And particularly when you're looking at a young English player, you're looking thinking like, well, there's the price tag, probably around about 5-6 million, which, to be honest, I think he's worth.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued. I'd love to know how much that we've had to pay for a loan fee. You know what I mean? Have we overpaid for a loan fee in terms of that? Then that's cheaper there. Or have we not paid anything and we're getting them on the cheap? Because for me,
well, I say, regardless of what we're paying, like what we've paid on the loan fee, we're paying regardless of the situation.
We paid it already.
So but at this point, you just think like, if it is true that it's 1.5 million for like Greenwood, like I say, don't get me wrong, he's relatively unproven in senior football, but at the same time, like we all saw him when he played for Leeds, and he came on, he looked good. Like, he looked positive, he looked quick, he looked sharp, and I think, again, for the Boro, I think it's the first couple of games he had, I think he looked a bit...
He was out of his depth a little bit, but now he's starting to find his feet. He's understanding a new way of playing with new players who he's never played with. You know what I mean? He's training with them every day. He's learning a new style and a new philosophy from a manager. For me, even just that word potential, you'd pay 1.5 million just for potential alone. You know what I mean? So for me, it's an absolute no-brainer. You've got to splash the cash, and what I'd hate is him to do well in the next 2 months and someone else come knocking. Who would pay a little bit more money. And I'm talking a Premier League club who's desperate, who are down the bottom of the league. You know what I mean? A Luton, Sheffield United, Burnley, who are desperate to get out of it at Bournemouth.
Well, even the Evertons, like I can see Everton like looking for a player sort of like this who's relatively young, like you can try and mould into the team, as opposed to buying a player that expects the team to be built around them.
Matty Proudman, evening Matty. Matty's obviously been on the show. Matty makes a point. On Greenwood, mate, 7 starts in his career. We need to be cautious. He does seem to have an attitude for me, and we can get a tune out of him. Or can we get a tune out of him? We have a luxury of seeing what he can do for the season. Perfect scenario for is not ideal for Leeds. I think I totally agree, Matty, there, to be fair. I think we're in good hands and we're in a good position because we've got hold of him. And, you know what I mean, having possession of him is 9/10 of the law, isn't it? You know what I mean? Effectively, that we've got him. We can see exactly what he can do, but we have to use him. In order to see someone's potential, we have to utilise that potential and get the best out of it.
Oh, yeah, honestly, the thing is that...
he's done it on Saturday, but he's got to do it again. You know what I mean? And the consistency is the key. You look at Akpom last year, you look at Ramsey's last year, you look at Archer. They were very consistent players. Yeah. And consistency in this level, in this league, is key for any kind of success. And if he's going to score, if he scores 1 goal all season, he'll be remembered for scoring the goal that Scott is going against Sunderland. However, you know what I mean, for me, the bigger picture is we want to get in the playoffs. And we got to get in the playoffs, we need him to perform week in, week out. So we need that consistency.
Well, we need at least double figures in goals as well from him.
Yeah, because we aren't going to get that 30-goal centre forward. You know what I mean? So cause I don't think Josh is going to get those amount of goals. He does all of the good work, but I think we've got to get goals from other players. And if that's Isaiah getting goals, is that Greenwood getting goals, is that Silvera getting goals, that's Matt Crooks driving in, Riley McGree driving in with goals. We need the goals to come from other players and other positions. And I think it's key that we are cautious, of course, but not get carried away. But I think for me, I personally would spend that kind of money.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're too cautious in the market nowadays, you can miss out on, well, bargains.
Yeah. Well, Ian James Brown goes on to say, if you sign Sam Greenwood with 1.5 million and he does good, you can sell him from £10 million plus in 18 months' time. Yeah. And that's probably the model that the club are probably looking at, you know what I mean, that reinvesting, you know, because he's a player who has potential. We talk about that word. That word's it's a good word, but it can also go the other way. And, you know what I mean, you talk about someone who doesn't perform and you spend that kind of money, it's a waste of money. And I totally get it from both sides of the
And let's put it in perspective. When you're paying £15 million for Britis Ombolonga.
Yeah, listen, the club's made some real poor decisions over the last 5-10 years in terms of some big signings. And for me, this isn't a big signing. This is someone for relatively peanuts in terms of what it is in football.
It's one for the future. It's the potential that it brings, and like I said, I think that appears to be our business model for the transfer window just gone. And like I said, obviously you can look at some players and say that it might not work out, but it's one of those things where it's risk versus reward. Yeah. Like, and the only way you can get the reward is by taking the risk.
Yeah, not totally. And I think if you weigh all those options up, I think, you know what I mean. For me, I think the option weighs more heavily on spend the money. Yeah. Spend the money and take the risk, and you know what I mean. And for me, even if you get half of that back, you've not lost a lot in terms of what you do. If you get 3/4 of it back, there's no reward, there's no risk in it.
And let's be honest, we are currently on essentially a try before you buy.
Yeah, totally.
Period,
part of me doesn't like the loans, you know what I mean. Part of me likes the model where we're going out and we're getting players in full time, and we're doing that kind of model, and we're looking for the next 3-4 seasons, which for me is a better model, because last year's model was excellent, loved watching it, but it's left us in a bit of a mess at the start of the season. That's where we are. So I think, you know, I mean, looking at a different model, which might be copied off other teams who've done well and got promoted and got in the Premier League and sustaining the Premier League model, for me, I think is also important. Obviously, moving forward, I know we're going to talk about the next game that we've got after the international break, so next week's show. But I just want to touch on it a little bit briefly before we finish the show. How important is the next game for the club? Obviously, hopefully we don't get any injuries during the break. For internationals, all players will go away. How important is it for the players to then be well up for the next game, which is Birmingham at home?
Well, it's like any first game back. If you can come back and hit the ground running, it puts you in good stead for the next run of games. I feel like if we came back and I don't know, it was a hard-fought draw or an unlucky loss, it's not the end of the world. It's still very early on in the season, but I think myself, like a lot of Boro fans, will be looking thinking there's no reason for us not to be able to sort of kick on.
Yeah. I think the worrying factor for me, and I know we're going to touch on it next week, is obviously Birmingham replaced John Eustace after a very good result against West Bromwich Albion on Friday night. I thought they were very good. Yeah. They're obviously in the playoffs. There's a lot of positivity in terms of the way they're playing, the results, and etc. So to replace the manager with Wayne Rooney, they've gone for obviously a name, someone who's done okay at Derby County with limited resources. Notoriously a manager and a fresh manager comes in and they pick results up straight away.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that doesn't have the same effect when they come to Riverside, because he has got a good window to work with the players to get his point across moving forward. And that's my only concern, you know what I mean, that we're in that kind of area where it could come and bite us on the backside, a new manager taking over.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. But like I say, what will be will be.
Yeah, and I think you can get excited, and I don't want to get negative about it. Is, you know, what happens in a couple of weeks. I think we can enjoy these moments. We've just left the derby at the weekend, and we're still riding that crest of a wave.
Yeah.
Things have been so good this week, and for the last 4 weeks, by the way. So we're not
Oh,
just
yeah.
talking one game. This
100%.
isn't just one 90-minute afternoon of joy being a Middlesbrough fan, and we got one lucky result. Since the Sheffield Wednesday second half, players have responded really well to what the manager wants us to do. They've seemed to have clicked, which is brilliant to see. We're scoring goals, we're keeping clean sheets. We look hard to break down. We look like a different side. We look a lot fitter. We look a lot stronger. The manager's stuck to more of a core of his players that he looks like he wants to keep together. Span of his team.
I can see that being sort of the theme of the season. I think I can see it being like sort of players that were here last season will sort of come in, and I think up until about Christmas, I think he'll slowly try and introduce the new lads.
Yeah.
Where before at the start of the season, I think he just sort of went free for all.
Yeah, and I think it's important that as a fan, you know what I mean, when we seen these players come in, when things weren't great, we needed to see them, because we needed to hope that they were the impetus and they were the fresh approach to give us that kick up the backside and hopefully freshen up the training sessions, freshen up the legs on the pitch on a weekend. And it just didn't work out for whatever reason. They looked like they struggled to settle. The new players, if they were the foreign players coming in from a different country, if they were, I thought O'Brien did okay, to be fair to him. I thought he was probably the best player who settled in very quickly.
Very unlucky, by the way.
Yeah, but getting a serious injury obviously hasn't helped. He'll be like a new player when he comes back, so speedy recovery obviously from last week. Obviously Sam Greenwood, you can only be judged on you're only as good as the last game. And you're only as good as the last game, so he's a very good
World
player.
class.
So I just think it's important now that the players have that continuation, you know, and build. Don't look at the playoffs, don't look at May, you know what I mean, look at baby steps. For me, look to December. Yeah. Look to December. Look at the Christmas period.
In all honesty, I think going into the Birmingham game, that's the only game that I'd be looking at. I wouldn't even be thinking about any game after that. So like I say, like, if you can come in, hit the ground running, then you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But like I say, I just hope we win.
And to be fair,
at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
I think we've gone past with what happens with what's happened during the season so far. I think we're past that looking to perform well. You know, I didn't think we performed fantastically well against Sunderland. I thought we did what we needed to do. We battled, we scrapped. You know what I mean? We managed to get through at half time at 0-0, and then the second half we raised our performance levels and blew away with that extra player. It's not about performance levels. It's a results business.
Yeah.
And you know, Cardiff, I didn't think we were great for the full 90 minutes. We were better in the second half than we were in the first. You know, so I think if we can keep things tight in the first half in games, we can blow them away in the second half, because we've got the fitness levels, we've got the legs, we've got real good options from the bench.
Well, we saw it last season though. Like, we go 1-0 down and then come back and win it 4 or 5-1. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think we're starting to look like that side now, where if we did go 1-0 down against Birmingham in the first half, as long as we get the next goal, I'd be looking going, we've got this in the bag, lads.
And I think that was a concern, wasn't it? And I know we spoke about it on the show week in, week out for the first 11 games, that we give the first goal away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were always fighting a losing battle.
Yeah. When
now we look like we're creating more chances. We look like we're going to score.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we can afford to give a goal away, because we know we can get 2-3 now. We've shown we can do it. Whereas at the start of the season, we were letting one goal in, and we were trying to blow that house down, but just not getting there. And then all of a sudden we get hit on a sucker punch, give a goal away, and 2-0. We were never getting back from it.
Yeah.
Whereas now we've got that mentality back from last season that we'll just outscore you.
Yeah.
And we'll outshoot you.
But not just that though.
We'll have possession.
We're seeing clean sheets now.
Yeah, we are. And I think, and that was my biggest concern, that I think we needed to be harder to beat. You know what I mean? And I spoke about the Karanka style football. I didn't mean attacking style because I'm bored to tears watching it. Defensively, I needed to see that goalkeeper who was getting a record number of clean sheets. The defence who were just one solid unit. You know what I mean? The players sat in front of the back. I mean, the Leadbitters and you know what I mean. Who just loved to defend. Who loved to get stuck in and break things up and pass to the players who could play. And that's not me being disrespectful, Grant. You know what I mean? You did a fantastic job, and you one of the best midfield players that Middlesbrough have had. But you know,
sorry, Grant. Sorry, Grant. Oh, sorry.
But you just knew what we needed to do at that time, and but now we look like we can keep clean sheets. We're doing it with a swagger. You know what I mean? The goalkeeper can save us when he needs to. You know what I mean? We've got players who take risks. We've got players who can bomb on fullbacks but can still get back and tuck in. We've got midfielders who enjoy doing the ugly stuff, enjoy going forward but can also defend. You know what I mean? And we've got attacking players who can excite. We've got pace and we've got goals. You know, we've got through the spine of the team, young, hungry players who wear that heart and wear that shirt with desire because they're local players. Yeah, which I think is key.
Oh, 100%.
You know, and I think it's just absolutely brilliant. Thanks, Ian, jumping on the back of that football, friends. No, it's not like it's not that. Stuart says the players will be up for the next one after the Mackin demolition. It's only Rooney. I won't use the word he used. He didn't do very good in the US. Listen, I think he'll want to increase his own reputation because he wasn't as successful as he wanted to be in England. He's got a lot of work to do. He'll look at Michael Carrick and think, that's where I want to be, you know. So it's two young, hungry, good coaches, good managers.
Yeah, 100%.
Coming head to head, and I think the more that we have in England, the better it is for me.
Yeah.
So I think it's exciting. But thanks for all your comments. Thanks for all your questions. Another great show. Still live on that 4-0. Any Sunderland fans, I really still feel sorry for you, but I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. So I'm going to carry on living the best life and up the Boro. Have a good night. Thank you very much.